celebration of these games coming out, and since two of us here have been actually playing RPGs since we got our hands on a gaming system, we're going to go ahead and go through our top 3 RPGs of all time, according to us, and we're going to do individual picks, and we're going to go ahead and start with Soto naming off his number 3.
I would have to say Fallout, the first Fallout. The classic Fallout where the world you got brought up in, the cannibals, everything about it, I loved.
Oh,
hey, I brought Fallout to the table. Don't think you're taking Fallout 1. You can take the next Fallouts. And the funny thing is, when I started making this list too, I realized I kind of have this thing for that apocalypse-esque world after Nuclear Fallout. Because then I was like, you know what else? Like Stalker. All the Stalkers are also good games.
But I mean, let's go back to Fallout. I mean, Fallout was, in my opinion, it was a very good game. It was PC only, so it didn't get as much popularity as it should have.
It was good times.
But yeah, I mean, what was that? Who was that developed by? Was that a European studio or an American studio? Do you know? Because I know it's not Japanese.
No, it wasn't Japanese.
No, it was an American studio,
it was an American
or at least American or European.
Yeah, it was one of the first games that actually from an American studio made an RPG, because back then, like I said, Japanese ruled the world in that genre for sure.
This is something we probably should know.
Yeah.
It's on the tip of my tongue. I used to know it. I can't recall it at the moment.
But no, the combat system, from what I remember, it was more of a turn-based style, kind of a more strategy style.
It was all turn-based.
Yeah. Very almost Final Fantasy Tactics-ish.
Are you trying to get me to say that I like Final Fantasy or something?
No.
Is there some plot afoot?
Definitely could be.
I will die before that I say that.
But no, Fallout, yeah. I mean, the original Fallout definitely introduced something new to the entire genre at the time. It was just too bad it was PC, because I didn't get a chance to play it until many years later when you looked at it and it looked dated as hell.
All right. I think Morrow here is looking up who it was that developed the original Fallout.
So everyone pull out smartphones so we get like...
Interplay Entertainment.
Interplay, okay.
AR. Let me just... oops. No, not that.
Alright, well, okay. Moving on. That's not as
we'll get back into that in a second. So alright, so Chuck, what was your number 3 pick?
Argentina. What the fuck?
Alright. My number... Alright, so you all are going to learn something about me is I don't plan ahead. I didn't really put much thought into this, and honestly, I'm not a big RPG player, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw in my number 3 as Final Fantasy VII, because that was pretty much the first RPG I really ever played.
And that defined RPG, and that made it popular. That was the game that came out and was a system seller for the original PlayStation. It sold the largest amount of copies. Before then, RPG was very cliche. It was, playing RPGs, you weren't quite as bad as the people sitting in the basement playing D&D, but you're damn near there in the gaming world. You played RPGs. Oh, you're such a nerd.
And even at this moment, I barely remember anything about Final Fantasy VII.
I remember plenty about that. But yeah, it is... that game introduced RPGs to the world as an actual good genre, as a top-selling genre. But I know Soda's got some things to say about that.
Go ahead and
I'm
rage
sitting
at me,
here
Soda.
like every Final Fantasy faggot in the goddamn world. It's such a good game. It's amazing. Okay, I'll give them credit for kind of pulling that like turnaround and stabbing one of the main female characters. That was nice. Made Sephiroth a dynamic evil character. I did like the way they developed him. I did like the fact that you kind of didn't hate Sephiroth until she stabbed her and killed her, but. I gotta say, Cloud's emo motivation of I don't want to do anything. I can't stand Cloud. Cloud, I hate
for
Cloud
me,
so
it wasn't
much.
about Cloud. For me, it was...
You play as Cloud. How could it not be about Cloud?
But come on, that was the day of that RPGs where the main character was a silent nobody that you just kind of played as, and it was all the characters you had around you that mattered.
Perhaps I forgot the days of that.
I don't miss those
It's a long
days,
time
honestly.
ago.
I like
greatest
the
days.
RPGs where you are a character that is not you and has his own motivations.
And I mean, I understand that back then, the new way RPGs roll, or like characters being out there and entering the little turn-taste battles have really developed. But even back then, when I was a little kid, I hated that. I'm walking around, do-do-do-do, screen spins, and at no point, maybe at the first 5 hours of it, at the 50th hour, every time it happened, I threw it at my friend and said, play this, I'm out. I want the storyline. Just tell me when this cut sequence with some dialogue comes up. Because if I have to do one of those sequences one more time, let me stop spinning the screen. I hate it. Oh, nightmares.
See, that's actually very different because I enjoyed every bit of it. I was one of those power levelers.
Power levelers.
Yeah, where I would sit there in a little field and run around and wait and like level. So that way I would
you min-maxed fucking Final Fantasy? That's awesome.
Yeah,
Did you get all of the power weapons in the game?
Oh, I did everything in Final Fantasy 7, all the way down to.
So wait, 120 hours? Is that what you reached?
yeah, I played a lot of that game.
Nice. Which I do have to state, I totally kind of miss that aspect of that secret little hidden things. Like, you don't see that in today's RPGs nearly as much, like, kind of, but the stats of the item, like, you played Oblivion, at no point was there, like, that ultimate weapon that was made just for you and your character, and when you got it, you're like, yes.
And you had to bust your ass to get it.
Right, really bust your ass. There's no more of that, and they need more of that in today's RPGs.
And actually, speaking of today's RPGs, my number 3 pick might be a little controversial, but I mean, because it just came out. The Witcher 2, to me, was fantastic. It actually dug all these elements from what modern RPGs are about and actually did a lot of them very, very well. And this was a little game actually made by a little Poland company called CD Projekt Red. This is virtually their second game ever made. The first one was Witcher, original Witcher, which, I mean, that was a good game too. A little broken, had some problems, but The Witcher 2 kind of fixed a lot of that. And the thing that I loved about The Witcher 2 was its storyline, and because we got so used to these games being about the world ending and the big thing, and you're this hero that came from nowhere and came out and saved the world based on pretty much luck. The Witcher 2, I mean, you follow a character named Geralt.
It was based on save points.
Yeah, pretty much. And, I mean, he's pretty much what a Witcher is. He's a monster hunter, and born from pretty much having genes spliced. I didn't really get too much into that, but very interesting character.
He's the Jedi of, like, the real mythical world, is what he is.
Exactly, yeah. And it was just, I mean, it was a really cool story. I mean, it didn't, you weren't playing some nobody that didn't know the world. He knew the world, he knew what he was talking about, and you were discovering things that he knew as you were playing along with it. I mean, you're seeing it from the eyes of a guy that's been around for a long time.
Lord, jagged scars, drinks every night, gets with hookers every other night. Yeah. It was great.
Speaking of that, yeah, it was actually the only game I can ever think of that actually introduced sex into a game, actually without being exploitive. It actually was...
I was about to say, really, because the Japanese, and then I'm like, okay, exploitive. Exploitive was the word.
No, it actually seemed like it fit into the plot and everything it did. It made sense that it was there, and it didn't feel like you were just sitting there just to see some pixelated boobies. No, it actually meant something. And I did like the fact that the story was about, it wasn't about saving the world. It was about political intrigue and getting your name cleared and discovering the different plots of different characters and about the kings and who's killing the kings. Is the killing the kings a good idea? Did the bad guys have good motivations for what they're doing? Do you agree? Everything was in all these shades of gray that made everything kind of seem... It was hard to make some choices throughout that game sometimes.
Which, after taking color theory, there are many, many shades of gray. that game did pull off. It did the classic, which I think every game and everything needs to strive to do, including especially movies. If you have some lore, some storyline, the question is, if this did exist, what would it really be like given the human condition and the way people are? And that game pulled it off pretty much flawlessly.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I love the fact that all the choices, I mean... Other games that introduce the whole quality of bad and good choices and you being evil and evil or good, this game didn't really do that. I mean, there was no situations where you're standing up there and you're like, you can either forgive the guy or kick him out a window. It was pretty much your only two choices. A lot of games did that type of stuff, and to me that was getting a little old. They needed to kind of blend that and make those choices harder to make based on your motivations and what you felt needed to happen, rather than you trying to build some good stat or bad stat in order to get something out of it. And so yeah, I mean, The Witcher 2 in modern games right now is one of the best experiences I've had in an RPG game in a long, long time. I mean, Mass Effect 2 was there, and that was one I actually knocked off the list for Witcher 2. Because I did love Mass Effect 2, but I thought The Witcher 2 got a lot of things right. And it's too bad it's for the PC, because a lot of people need to play this game and realize that there's some really, really good games out there.
It's too bad for the PC, and you need a beast of a PC to play it.
Oh yeah, this was the most beautiful game I have played it.
There's
another great feature of it.
On my computer.
Yeah, you need to have like $1,000 computer in order to play this game at max specs. Oh God, is it beautiful!
I spent hours trying to tweak it to run optimally on my computer.